Welcome to the Get Organized HQ podcast. I'm your host, Tasha Lawrence. Every week, we share practical strategies for less stress and more peace as we dive into all topics life and home organization. I'm so glad you're here for this week's episode. So the question that I ask pretty much every guest here on the Get Organized HQ podcast is, what is giving you less stress and more peace right now? And I wanted to answer that question for myself for the spring of 2025. And so these are some practices, some products even that have been really making a difference in the last few months of my life. And maybe some of these ideas would be something that could help you out and bring you less stress and more peace in your own life and home. So I'm going to dive in. I've got a list of 10 that I'm going to share with you. I am sure that if I sat and thought for longer, I could come up with even more. This is not exhaustive. And so many of these are not going to be something new. But hopefully, you can take something from this, maybe even be reminded of something that used to be a habit or something that you've tried before, but life gets busy. I have found that in the spring, life has gotten so busy for me. And these are the things that I have found myself coming back to, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, sometimes not nearly as often as I wish that I was. But when I find myself coming back to these things and these practices, that is where I'm finding less stress and more peace. And the first one, you are going to roll your eyes and you're going to say, of course that you're saying this because you are part of Get Organized HQ. This is the Get Organized HQ podcast. And so what would you expect except for me to say decluttering? But I am telling you right now, I am not saying that because it is the correct answer. If you ask my husband right now, or actually if I could take my camera, for those of you watching on the YouTube, I know a lot of you are watching or listening on a podcast player, but if I could take you with my camera into the office next to mine, the floor is covered. It is totally covered in things that I want to donate, in things that I need to sort through, in things that need to go in a different place. In the last week, I've pulled everything out from under the bed to declutter that. I have cleaned out our entire hallway game closet situation. I have been working really hard on the guest room closet. And for us, that is the catch-all space of everywhere in our home. Like if there is something and it's just going to get stashed somewhere and it's going to go there to die for quite some time, it's going into the guest room closet. And what I have found is that the guest room closet was full of delayed decisions. Have you ever heard that? That so many times when you're decluttering things or you're decluttering like that catch-all room, it's really decluttering your delayed decisions. It's all the things that all the other times that I've decluttered and I've done 80% of the work and I was left with a couple things and I was like, I do not know what to do with these. I'm going to go stash them on this shelf in this closet that I do not see very often so I don't have to think about them. And that works. I do that sometimes. I'm sure I will do that more often in my life. But sometimes you have to circle back to all those delayed decisions and make decisions. But I am putting this on my list of things that is giving me less stress and more peace. Now, I will have even less stress when I finish the process and I get all of those things out of my house, taken to a donation center. But I can already tell I have shuffled a few things around. Some things that were being stored under the bed are now being stored in the closet. Some things that were being stored in the closet got moved under the bed of just where things made sense. I have found more things to declutter than I could have imagined. I have really kind of grown into adulthood hearing about organizing and decluttering. I started with Get Organized HQ 6 years ago. And I lived in an apartment. I had a roommate at the time. And it does something to you when you hear over and over and over again all about decluttering and the benefits of decluttering. And so for years now, I declutter multiple times a year. I mean, this is not an uncommon thing. And the thing that never ceases to amaze me is that when I go through and I declutter again, there is almost always more to declutter. I am shocked at how much stuff I have gathered up that I want to take to a donation center. And some of the things that I have found in this particular round of decluttering, they are things that I have held onto for years. And so I'm going to share with you one of the things that I am letting go of that it took me a very long time to let go of. So, do you know what I mean when I say a prop up pillow? Like what a college student typically gets, you graduate from high school. So it's one of those like it has the little arms that stick off the side, and you kind of like lay it against the wall, and then you lay against the pillow, and it kind of like holds you up and gives you something to sit against the wall. I got this from my high school like engineering lab teacher. We had these classes. I think it was called Project Lead the Way. They were like really, really, really basic intro to engineering classes, and you could do fun little labs and different kinds of things. And this teacher came to my graduation open house, and she gave me this really, really nice pillow prop up thing. And I used that so much. I loved it. And a lot of years where I was using that, I had a loft bed. And so I would set that thing in the corner of my loft bed, and I'd jump up on my bed and I'd sit on my bed, like even working. I would work for Get Organized HQ in the early years, sitting on my bed, leaning up against this pillow. Well, let me tell you what changed. I got married, and I don't have a loft bed anymore. I now have a king bed that's at a normal height bed. And it's not in a corner, it's in the middle of the room. And so, pretty much all of the circumstances that brought about me using this prop up pillow all the time went away. And I have held on to that pillow for years and years because I loved it when I used it. It was so special. And I don't know. It was just a really good quality. Like some of those pillows you find and they're like really cheapy and they kind of fall over. Not this one. Like it is solidly stuffed. I mean, I like it is a good pillow, okay? And I was just sad to part with it because I really loved that pillow and I used it a ton, but it is not something that I have used in this season of life. And so for whatever reason, on this particular round of decluttering, I felt ready to let it go. And I have said so many times that decluttering is iterative. It's something you're going to come back to again and again. And so if you have your equivalent of the prop up pillow in your home, and if you don't feel ready to get rid of it, that is okay. You can leave it where it is. And who knows, in a year or 2 years or 4 years, when you come back and you declutter again, that may be the time where you're like, oh, you know what? I think I'm ready to let that go now. So I am really excited about all of the decluttering. And it just, especially in the spring, I want to get everything decluttered, hopefully. Maybe on the next edition of What's Giving Me Less Stress and More Peace. I'm hoping to do these seasonally. Maybe I'll be able to tell you that I've been able to deep clean, but I want to get the decluttering done first. So, decluttering is first on the list. The second thing that's giving me less stress and more peace right now is home projects. And I feel like this kind of goes hand in hand with decluttering. But my husband and I have been working pretty hard actually on some outdoor home projects, which is new and fun for us. We borrowed a pressure washer and he has been pressure washing like the sidewalk and the driveway. And like, who knew? Not I. I thought that was the color that our concrete was. I didn't know that our concrete was super dirty. Like, my mind is blown, friends, absolutely blown by what happens when you pressure wash concrete. So been doing that. We've been doing just some very, very simple landscaping. So we have, I guess you would call them flower beds, but they actually have shrubs in them, not flowers. With really old gravel. I mean, who knows? Probably a couple decades old gravel. I'm not really sure. We definitely didn't put it there. It was there when we moved into the house. And it's like the really little, I don't know if it was originally pea gravel or if it's just broken down to look like pea gravel, but we have added a fresh layer of rock. I am like amazed at how nice it looks. And I am just learning that I love home projects. Like I love improving my home, whether it's decluttering or adding something like rock to a flower bed. I get to enjoy that every time I come into my home. I am totally doing the thing after I've done this decluttering of opening up the closet and being like, look how nice the closet looks. And like now I get that experience driving up to the front of the house. Like, wow, the sidewalk looks so nice because it got pressure washed. And look at that rock. It looks so nice against the clean sidewalk. So those two really go hand in hand, but working on home projects has been so nice. Another thing that I have been loving in recent weeks, and actually, I guess this is really within the last week. I've gotten back into making smoothies. So I am not much of a smoothie drinker in the winter. It needs to be warm enough outside for me to drink a smoothie. And it's finally started to get warm enough, but here is the thing. I broke my blender. Maybe last fall. I can't remember when I broke it. It was towards the beginning of winter or it was in fall, one or the other. And it was not going to work anymore. And I did not replace it over the winter. We just didn't urgently need it. I don't really drink smoothies over the winter. That is primarily what I use a blender for. Maybe like twice a year, I would use it for something else like banana pancakes or something like that. But now that it started getting warmer again, I decided, okay, I think I'm ready to replace the blender because I actually do drink smoothies. And that is one of the only ways I will consume fruit. I am not a big fruit eater, but I will do it in a fruit smoothie. And I want to get, the variety of different nutrients that you can get from eating fruit. So I think I got a NutriBullet. I don't know if it was an Ultra or a Pro. It's a 1200-watt blender, whichever one is the 1200-watt one. I know I got that one. And I am amazed. I will try to find a link to it and put it in the show notes. If you're in the market for a blender, I would not say that I am a good blender reviewer. There are people who know a lot more about blenders than me. But a couple of things that are just like I'm jumping up and down about this blender. First of all, it is quieter than my other. I had a Ninja. Man, the NutriBullet, so much quieter. I mean, it's still a blender, still gonna make noise, but not in the same ballpark of the noise that the Ninja made. I also decided to just get the one that only fits the smoothie cups. That is primarily what I used on my other blender. And the thing that is just like making me so happy is it takes up so much less space in the cabinet. I mean, the base is just a tiny bit bigger than the top of a cup around. I mean, it's, several inches tall or whatever, but it does not take up very much space. And so there's more breathing room in my appliances cabinet. I am so excited about that. Plus, smoothie weather means that it is warmer outside. So, making smoothies is definitely on my list of things giving me less stress and more peace in this spring season. Another thing giving me less stress and more peace is YNAB, or You Need a Budget. So, Laura is actually the one who kind of got me using YNAB. I was a Mint user. I don't know if anyone listening was a Mint user, but do you remember back like pre 2024 when you could get this free budgeting app or serve like online software called Mint, and it would like import your transactions and you could set your budget, and I really do think it was free. I could be misremembering, but I don't think we paid for it. And we set all that up in 2023 and then they shut down. Or they didn't shut down, but they shut down that service, something along those lines. So I had to move everything over, and Laura was already using YNAB, and so I moved to YNAB. That's YNAB. It's just kind of pronouncing the first letters of "you need a budget" as a word. So YNAB is what people call it. And I was not someone who was like a big fan of budgeting prior to me and my husband setting up our budget, but I will say we have been in more of a season of spending. Like with some of the home updates that we've been doing, even just like buying rock to put it in the front of our house. And we bought rocking chairs and put them on our front porch. And so, like, you're going to see all these transactions coming into your digital budgeting software. But I would say that it's actually giving me less stress because I know where our money is going. We set aside a little bit of money each month for home projects, for whenever we're doing this kind of thing. And so now, instead of being like, oh man, like we spent this money on this and that money on that, and are we spending too much money? How much money are we actually spending on doing these home projects? I can actually see it. And even though sometimes I'm like, okay, wow, yeah, like we are spending a lot of money this spring on improving some things about our house, I know how much money we are spending. And that is definitely better than the general fear of the unknown of, well, I don't know how much money we're spending. I just know we're spending a lot. And so I don't know. I'm a really big fan. I was very resistant. I will tell you that right now. I did not want to know where my money was going. I was happy to not know. But now that we have it set up and now that I can see where our money is going, I can have these different budget categories. I can have a home improvements category. And so if we want to go to Lowe's and buy a rock to put in the flower beds, I can put that in the home improvements category and know, hey, we set aside X amount of money. We spent Y amount of money on this rock. Great. I can see whether or not we're in line with our budget. And so that has been really, really nice as we've been working through these projects. Another one on my list, and I do wonder if I would put this on every list of most every season, but running. I love running. And even if you're listening to this and you're like, why? No, I'm not going to run. You're not going to convince me to run. Why are we talking about running? I would just highly encourage you to find the form of exercise or movement or activity that makes you happy. It's not running for everyone. Maybe it's going to dance classes. Maybe it's walking the dog. Maybe It is strength training and lifting. Different things suit different people, but I really enjoy running. And especially as the weather gets nicer, when it's sunny outside and you have your headphones in and you're listening to your music or to a podcast, I really, really enjoy it. Now, running is one of those things that I will say I've been inconsistent. I wish that I was someone that I could tell you that, like, yeah, I run 3 or 4 days a week. But honestly, there are days I run every day in the week. And then there are weeks when I do not run for multiple weeks straight. But I can tell you that when I come back to it, it is definitely one of the things that gives me less stress and more peace. And so I really just getting outside and moving your body, it doesn't have to be a run. A walk is wonderful. Whatever makes you happy. I just endorphins are one of my favorite things in the world, and I love getting that movement in and that exercise and taking care of my body. Another way that I have been taking care of my body, in some ways at least, is eating more veggies. And honestly, I have become so addicted to roasted vegetables. I didn't really grow up eating a ton of vegetables, but just oil and salt and pepper on veggies in the oven is probably one of my top 5 favorite foods right now. And I will do broccoli, I'll do cauliflower, obviously potatoes. Roasted potatoes are always delicious. Carrots, onions, bell pepper. I really wish I liked squash. I grant you. I know a ton of people put like zucchini or some other sort of squash. There's other squash, butternut squash. I would do a butternut squash, but a lot of times I feel like the texture of squash, it's just more squishy than I want, which might be why it's called squash. But I have really broadened my veggie horizons and just putting some chopped up veggies on a tray in the oven at 400 with oil and salt and pepper has been one of my absolute favorite things and something that made that so much easier. It was actually last week. I did not do this week. I should have, but I did not. When I went to the grocery store last week and I got my veggies, I did all of the veggie prep that I could possibly do when I brought the veggies home from the store. So I cut the broccoli off and into little pieces. I guess they're called florets, I guess. And I put them into a food storage container and I cut all the cauliflower off and cut it into little pieces. And I just got everything as prepped as I could so that whenever I wanted to make roasted veggies at any time that week, I already had some pre-cut veggies. Now, if I wanted to add potatoes, I needed to cut up the potatoes. Or if I wanted to add onion, I needed to cut up the onion. But it gave me such a head start. And we ate so many more roasted veggies last week because I had pre-cut them and done that work ahead of time. And so it's really like doing a favor to your future self whenever you can do something like that. And I definitely want to do that again because it was a big success for me last week. I have also been finding less stress and more peace in appreciating nature, which is so easy to do in the spring. I have noticed just how much has exploded in terms of growth and how green the trees are over the course of the last week. I feel like it was not very long ago that there was pretty much no green on the trees. I mean, if you like looked really, really close and squinted, you could kind of see a bud. And now you just look out the window and there is green and life, and the grass is turning green, and the trees are starting to flower. And I've seen tulips and things popping up. And it is such an exciting time. And we've been adding some outdoor furniture as we've been doing some of our home projects. And so this lets me just sit outside and appreciate nature more, which I absolutely love listening to the birds. And this is something my husband is better at than me. And this is part of what is awesome about relationships in life. It doesn't have to be a spouse or a family member, even friends that you have, people that you work with. Just leaning into the things that they are good at in the ways that they are good at finding joy. And for my husband and his family, they are so good at appreciating nature. And I would also say appreciating good flavors. Just like slowing down and being like, wow, that is a beautiful sunset. Wow, this is an absolutely delicious hamburger. Whatever it is, they're really good at slowing down and appreciating that. And that is something I have learned to appreciate a little bit more over the last several years is seeing those things for myself and allowing myself to kind of sit in that moment of joy. My whole life is not perfect. And let me just caveat this entire list with that. It probably sounds all rosy and wonderful that I'm sitting here telling you these 10 things that are giving me less stress and more peace. And I'm having my smoothie and I'm eating my roasted vegetables and going on my runs. And it's easy to piece together this picture that, like, my life is perfect and I never argue with my husband and I'm never sad and I never cry and nothing is going wrong in my life and my house is always perfectly clean and there is definitely never a giant mountain of laundry that I have to fold on the weekends. And by never on that one, I mean always. I am really bad at staying on top of the laundry. But yes, I have all of the normal life things too. My life is not perfect by any means. And this list of things is not trying to say that I have this wonderful problem free life. But if we can lean into these little pockets of things that can bring a little bit more joy, a little bit of that less stress and more peace that we're pursuing, that can make a difference day by day. If you can have 5 minutes every day where you can just sit and say, wow, it is sunny today. And I love the sunshine. And I'm just going to sit in the sunshine and enjoy the fact that it's sunny. Yes, there are other hard things. Maybe you're waiting on medical test results. Maybe you are having to make really difficult decisions, or maybe you're struggling with difficult financial decisions. Like, there's so many heavy things. And all of these good things don't negate that. But we are able to hold both the heavy and the hard and the good and the beautiful all at the same time. And I think something as simple as appreciating nature is a great way to do that. Cleaning the kitchen. This is next on my list. And if you've listened to very many Get Organized HQ podcast episodes, you've probably already heard me talk about how much of a difference it makes for me when I get up in the morning and the kitchen is clean. I mean, it is just my favorite feeling to wake up, go get a clean mug, make my cup of coffee, and sit down on the couch with my coffee and not have a pile of dishes in the sink and not have stuff all over the kitchen island. And so, this is something that I have learned to prioritize over the months and years from seeing the results that it has for me. And that can be so motivational. Sometimes, if you start doing something that's a little bit hard, a little bit out of your norm, but you can see that it's having a positive effect for you, that can really help you do it again when you're not feeling motivated to do it. Because sometimes I do not want to do the dishes. I would really rather just sit down and take a deep breath and not be on my feet. Like, have you ever had that where you look at the clock and you're thinking, I have not sat down in the last 3 hours between cleaning and cooking and taking the dogs out and whatever the things that you're doing, as the day kind of gets to that point in the day where things are busy and just everything is happening. I've definitely had those moments where I've been like, I haven't even sat down. But because I clean up the dishes in the kitchen so consistently, probably 15 minutes is about the longest it would take, even if it was pretty bad, to get everything reset and cleaned up. And I can typically push for 15 more minutes, and I know it's going to pay off in such a big way in the next morning. And so, forever and always, having a clean kitchen is one of the things that gives me less stress and more peace. The next one is a little bit frivolous and silly in some ways. It sounds like your very classic self-care bubble bath type thing, but I painted my toenails. I have not painted my own toenails for a while. I mean, maybe a couple of years. Is not something I do often. I probably get 2 or 3 pedicures a year. I always joke that pedicures have to be a social event, or else I would just have like a bad habit of going and getting solo pedicures. But once in a while, whether I have my sister-in-law in town or I'll go with a friend, like around Christmas, I went with a friend and got a pedicure, or sometimes for a vacation. It's just, a special occasion type thing that I enjoy doing. But I really wanted some fresh color on my toenails, but I didn't really feel like paying to go get yet another pedicure. And so I just bought some toenail polish for like a quarter of the price of what it would have cost to go get a pedicure. And I painted my own toenails and it worked out pretty well. And it makes me pretty happy because it's sandal weather now that it's getting warmer outside. And so I get to see I think it is like a bright bluish color on my toenails. And I'm really a fan of it. And so it's such a little simple thing that is very inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. But sometimes those little things, they can be one of those things that adds pockets of joy to your day. And so maybe it's painted toenails for you, maybe it's something else. But if there's like a little something that you can do for yourself that can just kind of add that pop to your day, I definitely recommend carving out the time and making that happen. And then the last thing that I'm going to share on this edition of things that are giving me less stress and more peace is making progress on projects for work for Get Organized HQ, things like this podcast. And this is a really interesting one because I don't know about you, but work can definitely be a cause of stress. Even doing something like working for Get Organized HQ can bring very real stress. You should have seen me last Friday when something like the tech for something we had set up, it was broken. I did not know why it was broken. I thought I had fixed it. It was still broken. I didn't know how to fix it. I was literally on a time crunch to fix it before like minorly bad things were going to happen. As in, we were going to send out an email to people and they were going to get a link to something and it was going to be broken. Like it was going to go to a 404. Like that's not ideal. I would not prefer that to happen. And so, like, I was super, super stressed about that. Okay. And so, work can definitely cause stress. And it has been a busy, busy season here at Get Organized HQ. I'm really excited about some of the things we have coming up. Some projects we're working on. I mean, it's no secret that we're working on our ninth year of Get Organized HQ virtual. I think that we have done that often enough now that nobody's surprised whenever we say that it's back for another year. But already in full swing of working on that project, the other projects that have come up as well. And I love it. I am so blessed to be able to do what I do. Laura and I are the best of friends, and I really enjoy working with her. There are so many good things that are bringing less stress and more peace, while at the same time, sometimes the work projects are also what are causing me stress. Like both of those things are true. And I think that's where I want to wrap up today's episode by just reiterating what we talked about earlier, that we can hold both. We can hold both in the same thing. So, in this example, for me, it's work. It brings me so much joy and fulfillment and good relationships. And I get to put my creativity and my thought and logic into something and see the results of that. And that is so exciting and motivating. And at the same time, it makes me want to pull all my hair out sometimes and beat my head against a wall when it's not working. And I just believe so much that we as humans have the capacity to hold both the good and the heavy at the exact same time. And so I hope that this list has given you some ideas to bring just a little bit more of that goodness into your grasp, to set your eyes a little bit more on some of the beautiful things that you can be embracing and cultivating in your life while not letting go or ignoring or denying that there are also hard and heavy things. And so these are some of the things giving me less stress and more peace right now. If you have something that you want to share giving you less stress and more peace, you can comment on this video if you're watching it on the YouTube platform, or you can always reach out to support at getorganizedhq.com. We read the emails that come in and you can share with me what is giving you less stress and more peace right now. You may have an idea for me that I haven't thought of that I need to add to my daily routine, and maybe that would come up on a future version of what is giving me less stress and more peace right now. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you again for next week's episode.